Hey, everybody. Welcome to this newest episode of Strange Appalachia. I want to thank everybody out there for listening, and a lot of you guys have stuck with us since the beginnings. That's pretty cool. We really, really appreciate that. Um, our numbers have been up and down, but there's a handful of you all that are making sure you listen to every episode, and so that's pretty awesome.
So
Tonight,
we're 2 months into this thing now, so that's kind of hard to believe.
yeah, 2 months. You
Just
know,
over.
it's went by real quick. Time flies when you're having fun. So
Indeed.
tonight we're going to continue with some of our some of our Halloween themed stories, and tonight's Goblins is what we're going to go over, and specifically what's called the Hopkinsville Goblins in Kentucky. Sometimes it's called the Hopkinsville Encounter, and the allegation is that a group of people or a family were in their house one night, and they were actually attacked by small men with pointy ears and big eyes. Some people believe it to be a UFO encounter or an alien encounter, and they get UFOs because of the strange lights these people saw in the sky. So these things were described as being no more than 3 foot tall, and actually they were supposed to be bulletproof too. So it's a pretty crazy story.
The story definitely talks about this family shooting at these aliens they saw. That's a very common thing. I've seen a couple of different versions of the story. They don't differ too much because it is a fairly recent story in the grand scheme of things. And I hadn't really heard too much about this, but apparently this was a way more popular or a way more well known story than I realized, considering it's fairly close here in the Appalachian Mountains. Don't know if you saw this or not, but there was actually a Pokemon that was based on these. So if anybody's familiar with Pokemon, I think it was in the second or third generation. There was a Pokemon called Sableye. That Pokemon is based on the description that this family gave of these goblins or aliens or whatever we're going to go with calling them.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting story. It took place in 1955, which was
Uh, I
that
didn't
was
realize it was that long ago.
yeah, 1955, and that's right in the high part of the early UFO era. Actually, it was researched by Project Blue Book, which was, the Air Force's investigation into different UFOs and unexplained
I,
phenomenon. So, it was extremely popular at the time. They're so popular, the government sent people out, and it's still one of the most well-known UFO stories today.
yeah. So these goblins, they're called the Hopkinsville Goblins, and that's sort of what we're going with here. But basically, this family was at home one night, and the one of the family members saw these creatures or these beings looking in their window, and I imagine that there's definitely some alcohol involved in this story somewhere, for sure. But they saw these things looking in the window again, nothing malicious, just looking in the window, and of course it creeped them out. So they did what I believe most people in the Appalachian region would do: is they went to scare them off with their guns, and they ran them off, went back to doing whatever it was they were doing, and looked up, and there these things were again, looking in the windows. So this time, instead of just chasing them with the guns, they shot them. Mainly shotguns is what the story says. And as they're shooting them, they're hitting these things, but they're not affecting these things, which is where that bulletproof statement earlier comes in. So they're hitting these things. There's these strange lights all around, and of course, it creeps these people out. So they sort of hunker down in their house for the night, and then the next day they go out and try to figure out if anybody else saw these things, or get help and all that good stuff. That's the version of the story I understand. Is that pretty close to what you found, Charlie?
Yeah, that's exactly the story. Basically, they were sitting down to eat dinner, and they began noticing strange lights in the sky, and then they saw these things. Give me just a second. I'll give you the name of the family.
Okay.
Uh, it says 5 adults and 7 children arrived at Hopkinsville Police Station claiming small alien creatures from a spaceship were attacking their farmhouse. It doesn't list the name of the family.
Okay.
Here it is. Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor were the two people shooting 12 to 15 short, dark figures that repeatedly popped up in their doorways and peered into their windows. So, unlike a lot of these legends, it's not kind of a faceless thing where, somebody saw it and then they told their friend, and before you know it, it's a crazy legend. They actually have, we've got names involved, and we've got an actual date and a place. So all this stuff's easily researched. You can actually visit the town that this happened in or happened near. So it's a pretty unique story in and of itself.
That
So
town,
what do you think?
uh, according to the stuff I found, that town has sort of embraced it. You know, we talked earlier about the wood booger in Norton, Virginia. That town has sort of embraced these goblins or these aliens, and they have a festival every year, and they sort of embrace it as kind of a tourist attraction type thing. So a lot of the things we see, especially in the Appalachian region, you've got a town that's trying to capitalize on this and bring in some tourists this way. So, if you're interested in this, they'll certainly be glad to see you come into town and learn about it.
Yeah, all these little small towns that have strange things happening in them will do that. You see it with Point Pleasant as well with the Mothman. They have a
Absolutely.
Mothman. They have a Mothman festival there every year, and the people I know that went to it said they've had a pretty good time.
Hmm.
So it'd be something cool to go check out at some point in time. So what do you think some of the possible explanations for this are? I know some of the people think that this family, of course, alcohol was involved, or many people believe that alcohol was involved. Um, I've heard people say that it may have been owls. What are you thinking?
I think owls is definitely the most likely explanation for these. Their description hits very very close to the common species of owl in that area. Uh, the name of it slips my mind right now. Great horned owl doesn't sound right, but it might be. I don't know. But there's a species of owl that they're basically describing spot on. It's about 3 foot tall, big eyes. That's going to be looks like it's glowing. So it's really spot on there. And if those owls have built a nest somewhere close by, they're going to be really really protective and really territorial at times. And if you said earlier, I think 5 adults and 7 children, which is sort of a typical family size if you have a family get together. But that's what, 13 people, 12
Yeah,
people. I can't count. 12 people. Um, 12 people are going to make a lot of noise. It may have upset these things, and they're coming trying to scare off whatever's there. Um, and I know me and you have talked a little bit about it throughout the week. Uh, you've got a really good point against it being an owl. Um,
yeah. yeah, some of the stuff that are associated with these things, owls aren't bulletproof. That's one of the
Absolutely.
biggest ones. I mean, and the description of that they said was when they shot these little creatures that they bounced off of, the bullets bounced off of them, but the creatures tumbled, so they were affected by it. But it's almost like it just the force affected them. It didn't actually hurt them.
Yeah, they were knocked down by it, but not. Um, it didn't cause a wound.
Yeah, and also it describes them as being not really malicious. You
Right.
know, the creatures are never described as trying to attack the family. They just, the family was scared of them, and these creatures were almost like they were playing. So I know that Project Blue Book listed it as a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the articles I read said that people still use this as in psychology classes as a kind of a textbook study of a mass hallucination where all these people really get worked up over something that's not real.
Right. And, speaking of those mass hallucinations, there's a lot of these stories over the years, and especially some of the Halloween related ones that can easily be chalked up to the mass hallucination. The big one that stands out that's sort of Halloween is the Salem witch trials and stuff like that. Definitely, looking at it in the lens of history, seems to be mass hallucinations.
Mass hysteria, I guess, is a better
That's it.
mass hysteria is a better description than mass hallucinations. So, you know, I tend to not think it was actually goblins, but it's a great story. It's very interesting just to get in there and see the see what's going on with it, see the workings of it. And these people were terrified for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Anybody that's going to get worked up enough to go file a police report over, what they describe as aliens, that's
Yeah,
not just a normal level of scared.
yeah, especially in 1955 in rural Kentucky. You know, it's not like it is now when it's easy just to pop on down to the police station.
Yeah,
They'd had to load up the whole family and uh, maybe even found a ride. I don't know exactly how it worked, but you know, it's just not as easy as it is nowadays to do things like that. So, but
absolutely.
the police did come out and look around the house and see the damage caused by the guns, but they couldn't find any proof or evidence that anything else had happened other than these people just basically shooting into the dark.
Yeah, and like you said, those police officers were followed closely by government agents from the Project Blue Book. So
Yeah.
definitely drew attention of some big time important people.
So you had shared a story with me earlier. Um, kind of a weird news happened down in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. You want to talk about that some?
Yeah, it's a video that I saw somebody had shared online. I don't even remember now who shared it. It's a video of a guy that's on, it looked like some kind of a boat, maybe a yacht, and he was filming sort of off the side, looking at the horizon. And as he pans, there's, what would you say, 7 to 15 just lights floating in the sky.
Yeah, there's a ton of lights just out there, almost like they're hovering. Quite a few.
Yeah, definitely strange. It talks about it in that article. I think it said, of course, it asks about the UFO thing. Um, I think the most likely outcome is some kind of a military outing. There's a military base in that area, I believe.
Yeah, probably flares actually is one of the explanations I read.
Okay.
Military flares, they were doing some testing, and that's an explanation that's given a lot of times for UFOs, especially from the government. You know, I know
Mm,
that happened. What is it? I can't remember the lights. I think it was the Denver lights where
mm-hmm.
they saw the
Yeah.
light. Um, and it looks like one giant craft, and the lights come on slowly and then go off slowly. And they said that was solar flares. Actually, the way the lights light up and then go away, I'm willing to believe it's solar flares as well.
Yeah. Are you talking about the one here that I sent you earlier on the Outer Banks, or are you
Yeah,
talking about?
that's the article I'm talking about. I was just comparing it to the Denver article.
Yeah. I could
So
see it being solar flares because it's sort of off on the horizon, and you get a lot of weird stuff, that happens farther off. The light can definitely play tricks on you. It looks like the sun's either just as it's coming up, or right as it's going down, one of the two. So it's not like bright daylight and it's not dark. So
if if it's in the Outer Banks, it's the sun coming up.
is it okay?
Yeah, because it rises in the east and sets in the west.
That makes sense.
So, well, that's all I've got with the Hopkinsville Goblins. If you got anything else,
Yeah, I've got nothing else. So as always, everybody, thanks for listening. Give us comments. I know we ask for that every week. We've been getting fewer and fewer of those, but the likes or the views aren't going down. So we know you're listening. We appreciate it. Let us know what you think, good or bad, and we appreciate you listening. We can't say it enough.
Yeah, we really do. And, like we've been saying, if you got anywhere you want us to come out to investigate, to look around at, or any place or any other stories that you want us to do. I know someone had, I think it was actually Lori had actually posted that she wanted us to kind of look up some of the sayings in the South and where they came from. That would be a pretty interesting episode. So maybe after the Halloween thing's over, we'll look into something like that.
Yeah, maybe talk about some of the mountain magic stuff and
Yeah,
things along those lines.
we've got some cool stuff coming up. So just stay tuned, guys.
Absolutely. See
All
y'all
right.
next week.
Thank you.